This week on Bravo's Love Hotel.
Not your girlfriend.
Okay.
She's mine.
But
Don't forget it. Don't touch her.
I'm being kind.
Actually, don't touch her.
Okay.
I'm mad now.
Okay.
Don't touch my girlfriend. She's here to talk to the gentleman.
Okay.
And you're being rude.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping Bravo's Love Hotel Season 1, Episode 6. Let's get right into it. Alright, so Love Hotel. It's a bright, beautiful day again. Gorgeous location. So Gizelle talking to some of the guys, she talks about this being an interesting experience and whatnot, and this new guy, he came in recently, his name is Theo. He says to Gizelle, I looked it up and I read that white men and black women couples have the lowest divorce rates. And Giselle's like, Okay, Theo, go on with this research. That's good to know. Because she had just asked him the day before if he had ever dated a black woman. And he followed up on that. So that was impressive. So everyone then convenes together. There will be one-on-one dates on a boat. And the ladies have to ask out the man that they want to take on this date right there and right now. So Gizelle goes ahead and asks Theo. Shannon asks Earl to love, Ashley asks out Ralph, and finally Luanne asks out Mark. I think she feels bad that they brought Mark back and he came just for her, so he was happy to be asked out. He jumped and hugged her right away. So the ladies and their men head out to the boat. They order some drinks. There's food made for them. The vibes were great on the boat. They're dancing. Earl was feeling himself. He was opening up his shirt and dancing, which Shannon doesn't really like, and I think that's fair. Shannon could be a little bit extra, but I can understand why maybe she was like, let's keep your shirt on if you're not going swimming. But some of them do go swimming. Theo takes a dive. He then talks to Gizelle a little more. Remember, he is a doctor. Ashley goes to put on her bikini, and, she was putting it all out there, and Ralph loved to see it. Gizelle has a conversation with Earl, which is very important. She asks how are things going, and he says that they're going great. Shannon actually called him sweetie today, which is good. But she does ask, do you see yourself actually dating after this? And he says he doesn't know. He doesn't know how her lifestyle really is, and he has never really dated anyone that's expensive. And I think that's one of the problems when it comes to these types of shows like The Bachelor, Love Island, Bachelor in Paradise, that you have all these people in a beautiful location, emotions are strong, they're amplified, and people fall for each other, but the scenario that they're in is extremely different than the everyday normal life. And that's not to say it can't work, but it's important to consider for sure. So after the sunset, everyone returns. So the ladies get to talk to some of the other men that they haven't seen all day. Ashley invites Wale to her room and she asks him, what does your typical day look like? He says, I wake up at 7 a.m. He made a comment that I thought was kind of weird. He says, I wake up if the sun tells me to, if I feel like it. But for the most part, he's just a chill, normal guy. So James wasn't thrilled that his love, Luanne, went on a date with Mark, and some people are asking him, how do you feel? And James says, I'm not worried. They never really had a connection. I already consider Luanne my girlfriend. And he says, who wants sloppy seconds anyway? I was like, okay, James. So that was pretty much it for the day. It is now the next morning. Everyone is gathered up again, and Joelle says that some people will be here to help the ladies make some decisions. And so they let these people in, and it's basically loved ones of the women. So for Luanne, she had her good girlfriend, the one and only Cynthia Bailey. She came through. Shannon has 2 of her daughters come. Ashley's best friend came, and then Giselle's best friend Cal, who we've seen a lot in Potomac, he came for her. So the women, everyone's kind of introducing themselves and each other. So what's going to happen is that, everyone's going to be able to, kind of talk, get to know each other. And then the BFF / loved one is going to be joining their women, and they're going to have a date. And they're the ones that are going to be picking who they want the women to go on the dates with. So it was nice to see the women introduce the men to their friends and vice versa. So Shannon is introducing Earl to her daughters, and the girls ask some interesting questions. And these girls have seen their mom go through some pretty bad relationships. Gizelle and Cal talk to Phil and Theo. I thought it was funny. Ashley's friend, he's talking to Wale and Ralph. So he asks Wale, "How old are you?" And Wale says 38. And the friend says, "Same." He then asks Ralph, "How old are you?" And Ralph says 61. And the friend's like, "Oh, not same." He then asks how do they feel about being stepdads. Wale said that it depends on the children. And Ralph says, "Just work it out organically." Ashley then wants to play this or that, mountain or beach, great date night or great sex. So they kind of had that little fun conversations. And then let's get to Cynthia. So Cynthia is asking some good questions to Mark, Mitch, who we haven't seen much of, and James. And again, good important questions from Cynthia. But James, I don't know if he caught himself, but it looked like he likes being touchy-feely, but he was grabbing onto Cynthia. But not only that, when Cynthia was asking some questions to some of these men, James was acting a little wacky and jumping in, and he was asking them questions. And Luanne has to say, "James, be a gentleman. Compose yourself. Don't put your arm around my girlfriend. She's not your girlfriend. I'm mad now. You're being rude." I don't know why. I thought this was hilarious. I had to rewind a couple of times. And he says, "You're right. I'm sorry, babe." Listen, Luanne definitely gives the more dominant and James gives more submissive. So then everybody gets back together, and we are going to hear the friends of the women let us know who they want to go on a date with their friends. So Cynthia says that Luanne and James have an undeniable chemistry, but she would like for Luanne to go on a date with Mark. Ashley's friend chooses Ralph. Cal chooses Phil for Gizelle, and then Shannon's daughters choose Earl. And they get going on those dates. The dates are kind of like cooking classes slash just doing like something. So Ashley, her friend, and Ralph, they went to go do some cocktails. They also talk about relationships. Ashley's friend asks Ralph what would people who dated him, what would they complain about Ralph. And Ralph says that probably that he's very impatient. But then he says that he actually self-diagnosed himself because he was looking into maybe why he was really impatient. Long story short, he has like dyslexia and ADHD. He's gotten better. He shares that it's hard for him to read books because it's hard to put the letters together. And he's trying to get better. And I thought that was so vulnerable of him to share. Like, that's something very, very personal that he shared. Gizelle, Phil, and Cal, they do a tres leches cake. I love a tres leches. Shannon, Earl, and Shannon's daughters, they put on some sombreros and they make guacamole. I thought this was so cute because they kind of look like an actual family together. And then to go along with the guacamole, the instructor gives them some fried crickets. Shannon didn't want to have them, but one of her daughters did, and so did Earl. And the girls, they ask Earl if he's ever seen The Real Housewives, and Earl says no. He's obviously heard of the franchise, but he would never know, like, what show is which, who was in it. Like, he would have never known that Shannon was in the show. But he does ask Shannon, like, would he need to watch the shows? And that kind of does make Shannon just a little bit worried that maybe being on The Real Housewives could, like, just The Real Housewives of it all could be a little bit too much for him. But you know what? He's on a TV show right now. So if he's willing to do this, why wouldn't he be able to film Housewives? Shannon, she's having that concern. Luanne, Mark, and Cynthia learn how to make a paella. But let me tell y'all something. Seeing Luanne swinging around that big sharp knife gave me anxiety. And seeing the way they were cutting the onion, and then Mark actually cut himself. Listen, people, please don't play with these knives. It was bad. So going back to Gizelle, things are good with her and Phil. You know, they've gotten to know each other and everything. But all of a sudden, here at this little chat, Phil starts to reveal that in his previous relationships, he would have problems with communication. He would sometimes leave. He was also very controlling. And Gizelle's kind of like, whoa, like that was a lot that you just dropped on them. Because she says that she doesn't want to be controlled. I personally think that Gizelle wants to be controlled by Jamal Bryant. Listen, Gizelle, I don't think has ever been able to get over that man, and I think that's why she's never had a single relationship, a successful one. I mean, I remember when Monique said at the reunion, "You're sitting here bringing a different man onto the reunion every freaking year," but I think it's because she's never gotten over Jamal, and if she can't get over Jamal, how will she be successful in all these other relationships? All right, going back to Luanne and Mark and Cynthia. Cynthia asks Mark if he's ever dated a woman that's Luanne's age, and he's like, no. So clearly he might be into the younger women. I think that's what Cynthia is getting at. So he says, I like Luanne. And Luanne's like, oh, you like me? And before you know it, Santa Claus's cousin's like, what do you want me to say, that I love you? Like James? Dang. And also, before Mark left the first time, he had already told Luanne that he was just there for fun. And then Cynthia, I gotta respect her, she didn't bite her tongue. She says, I think you could be good friends, but I don't think you could be compatible as a couple. So that was it for the dates. Gotta say, some pretty great dates. They really were. So then everybody's able to hang out afterwards. James is talking to some people, and he says that he is in love with Luanne. And given Luanne's track record of how quickly she gets married to her past two ex-husbands, knowing James for such a short time might be right up her alley. I mean, even Shannon says that it's a little kooky to know someone for a few days and you're already calling them your girlfriend and you're in love with them. But that's James. That's what he said. So that's it for the day. And it's now the next day, and the women get to spend just a little bit more time with their loved ones before they leave. I thought it was so nice that Earl went and bought some gifts for Shannon's daughters. I think the girls liked Earl. And then everybody gathers after the loved ones leave, and Joelle says, your next elimination is now. Then he says he's just kidding. And that was the end of the episode. So yeah, this was a good episode. I thought it was a fun little twist to bring in some, people that the women are close to in real life. I think that helps a lot. Like I said, I thought some of the dates were great. And yeah, so that was episode 6. I wonder how many episodes this season will be, because I don't know. We'll see if there's anything that can be, like, any more possibilities that can happen for the remaining of the season. But y'all, let me know what your thoughts were about this episode. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.